Here's your host, Jason Vorhees and Aaron Savage.
Oh, yeah!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports and Metal Podcast. We are your hosts. This is Aaron Savage. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Jason Voorhees.
What's up, brother?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Doing great.
Good, good. Very excited this week. We have a very special guest. In case you don't see the background graphics, he is the keyboardist, main composer, songwriter, founding member of the Renaissance Rock Orchestra. He's an accomplished studio musician, touring musician. He has recorded and toured with members of Heart, Asia, Bad Company, Jefferson Starship, Billy Idol, Slash, Blues Traveler, Queensryche, Quiet Riot, Alice Cooper Band, Toto, Pantera, ACDC, Michael Schenker Group. The list goes on and on. He's played with George Lynch, Joe Hoekstra, of Whitesnake fame, played in Rock of Ages on Broadway. I had the pleasure of meeting him there when I had the pleasure of enjoying Rock of Ages on Broadway. He's just played with a plethora of amazing musicians. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Gregg Fox.
Hey, guys, how are you?
Howdy, Greg. How are you?
Doing great.
I am hot.
Good. In case the listeners aren't aware, Greg is joining us from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada, where it's currently 113 degrees.
Oh, they have opened up the gates of hell.
My goodness.
I say that, I've been in Las Vegas for 10 years, and every year when summer comes, I say that. But this is the first time that I've been really committed to the gates of hell being open at like mid-June, right?
Well, you know what? This is a metal show, so
there we go, right?
It's fitting.
We are deep in it, folks. We are there. Watch out. Yeah,
yes,
I guess
indeed.
The whole country is going through this. So, we're not alone. But, of course, most of you are not hitting 115, 118. We had 115 degrees here yesterday.
Wow.
Mind-boggling. Especially, like you said, this early in the season. It's insane.
It's just like, what in the hell? Oh, no. That is kind of bad news for the rest of the summer. I'm worried about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's scary to think about. But
it is.
On another note, more positive note, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Renaissance Rock Orchestra, a little bit about yourself, Greg?
Certainly, yes, yeah. Well, there's so much to say. It's hard to know where to start. But I'm originally from Seattle, Washington. I'm a Seattle boy. And so I kind of came up doing all the entire rock scene up there and worked with, the guys in Heart for years and years in different formats and hung around and did some things for some of the guys in the Queensryche. And my roots are all Seattle, but a lot of club work mostly up there and studio work too. But I got here to Las Vegas about 10 years ago. And before that, I should tell you the story. You guys will enjoy this story. It's a good one. I had thought back in the 90s that rock and roll was dead.
As most of us did.
Right? Yeah. For me as a keyboard player with the grunge thing and alternative, there wasn't a lot of keyboard work going on for me. So I figured, wow, all right, well, and it looks like times are changing and things are not so happening. Yeah. So I ended up moving down to Phoenix, Arizona. And in the 90s. And while I was in Phoenix, I really didn't play for several years because once again, I was like going, wow, well, rock's dying. Things are not happening. There's no tours for me anymore. And after being there for several years, I was doing the sales job where I was selling ATM machines, strangely enough, right? And I walked into a skateboard shop and was thinking about an ATM machine. And the guy that owned the shop is a very good friend of mine now because we ended up working together in a band in Phoenix called Superhero. He had a picture of Jeff Tate up on his wall in his office. And when we were kind of being a little informal after this presentation, he was like going, do you know that band? I'm going, yeah, I know that band. Yeah, I didn't say anything else other than that. And he's like going, I sing just like that guy. And of course, my first thought is, okay, sure.
Okay, sure. Right. 8 octaves, yeah.
Well, right next to the skateboard shop was a pawn shop. And they had a keyboard over there. I told him I was a keyboard player and some of the stuff I'd done and who I'd worked with and this and that. He said, wow, really? come play for me. Let's go over there. Let's see this. Check out this keyboard over here. I think it was a Yamaha CP70, which I used to have. Very, very cool. It was kind of weird and rare that they had one in the pawn shop. So I went over there and I started just jamming out. And it was just right out of a movie. He calls the guitar player, Mike Hodges, and he goes, Mike, check this out. They were wanting a keyboard player. And I went out and I saw this band. And they were unbelievable. Superhero. Man, we used to pack the clubs there in Phoenix. And the first time I saw them, I mean, the drums, everything. Our very first rehearsal, the very first song that we played, it was a cover band, right? We played Separate Ways.
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, the singer Norm had a really cool sound stage, kind of rehearsal place. And at the end of the song, we all stopped. There was complete silence. It was like, did you hear that? Really? I was just like, we couldn't believe how great it sounded. And
Yeah.
it was just a phenomenal band. I had a lot of fun doing that in Phoenix. But then me and my wife decided that we were going to buy a sailboat and sail around the Bahamas, which we did.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it was quite a trip going down to Florida and driving all around trying to find a sailboat that we could actually afford at the time. And then taking the sailboat, fixing it up, sailing around the Bahamas. I was on that boat for about 7 years, and it was an amazing, amazing bucket list experience to do that. It's the kind of thing that most people dream about doing, and it was just crazy, crazy cool. And it kind of changed to me in a lot of ways. You know, before I went on that sailing trip, I was kind of hanging on the coattails of other people, right? Other bands, famous artists, you know, being a side guy, this and that. And, you know, when you're out there and it's just you and the weather and the ocean, you learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah, a lot of time to think.
Yeah. I went through several hurricanes, but it was an amazing experience. And even though I didn't have a keyboard on the boat, I wasn't writing, I wasn't doing my passion, and that's what drove me from it 7 years later. Is I just had to get back into music and I had to play. But when I got back into it again and went back up to Seattle, and I actually moved to Venice Beach, California, and was living in a really, really nice house on the Grand Canal there for a while. And I wasn't even in LA for 3 months, and Foreigner asked me to tour with them.
Wow.
I ended up not doing the tour, but the sounds that I programmed, they said were even better than the records. So, yeah, I'm an endorsed Korg keyboardist, so I've been playing on Korg keyboards since the 80s. So my programming skills, which is a very important thing on synthesizers,
Sure.
came in very, very handy with all that. But so I was out in LA, living in Venice Beach, and right on the Grand Canal, and I would have like 30 feet of sliding glass doors open, beautiful weather, and these tour buses would always come by, right? Because Venice Beach, the Grand Canal, all these movies were done there, the bridges, all these things, and these tour buses would come by, and I'd end up having these audiences sitting there watching me practice and writing songs and stuff there when I was in Venice Beach, which was kind of fun. And it's kind of funny because at that point, which was 2009, I was actually starting to write music that would end up being on the last 3 Renaissance Rock Orchestra records. So, yeah, it's been a long time that I've had this idea in my head about the Renaissance Rock Orchestra, and started writing the material with my buddy Mikey Bones, my best friend, my bass player. He was in Superhero with me in the band there out in Phoenix, and became very, very, very good friends. Great bass player. And so he had moved to Vegas, and I would invite him out to Venice Beach, and we would party and we'd play and write and record, and that's where the idea of the Renaissance Rock Orchestra first took place, and we started putting it all together. I don't think I was probably in Venice Beach for maybe close to a year, and Mikey said, you need to move to Vegas. There's so much going on in Vegas. And at the time, and still, obviously it's the entertainment capital of the world, arguably. And obviously Nashville is, getting a lot of creds and a lot of props there that way too, musically. But at the time, it was an amazing thing because all those rock stars, all those musicians from LA were trying to escape the taxes, the rising real estate costs, and they were moving to Las Vegas. Everybody was moving here. And so we decided to put a show together. And so we came out and started working on the show. And It didn't last long for several reasons, personnel changes, and at the time I had a rich girlfriend that was kind of taking care of me, and we moved into Rodney Dangerfield's penthouse here in Las Vegas. When we first moved to Las Vegas, I said, if we're moving to Las Vegas, we're going big or we're going home, right?
That's all you can do in Vegas.
Yeah, and it was so awesome because I had a white grand piano in the living room, and the entire place was all glass. I pushed one button, and the entire blinds for the entire place would go up and down. It was very, very nice. But, I really didn't have to work then. I was kind of just creating what I was going to end up doing, the Renaissance Rock Orchestra. And so we ended up having parties every night. Gee, what a surprise, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful place. We would have 30, 40 people over there several times a week. A lot of times I would have rock stars come to my house and look at me and go, who the hell are you?
And that's kind of going to lead to a question I had. How did you get hooked up with all of these famous rock stars? Well, I guess this is the beginning of the story.
Well, part of it has to do with the background in Seattle, and just moving up and getting with better and more talented artists, and then working with the guys in Heart was a big thing.
Yeah.
And doing some things. I ended up having a band called Sister Mary with Pamela Moore, who was Sweet Sister Mary off the Operation Mindcrime album, and has been out with Queensryche many, many times on many tours. And Howard Leese from Heart was producing that.
Okay.
And I was writing a lot of the songs, not all of them. We were splitting a lot of the compositions in that band. But so that was kind of the first start. Some of my work with the Queensryche guys and the Heart guys. And then I kind of got out of Dodge and went, okay, grunge happened, and I was sort of out of work, and it was like, all right, it's time to leave Seattle. And so I went off to Phoenix, and subsequently on my sailboat trip, which led to Venice Beach and ultimately Las Vegas. Yep. But so when I got here, and of course, when I went to Venice Beach, I was meeting everybody in Venice Beach, and in that short period of time was asked to tour with Foreigner and met a lot of people there. And so that helped build up the connections and those relationships with people. But it was really when I got to Las Vegas that things kind of exploded. I don't think I was in Las Vegas for even 6 months before. And is anybody listening? I want to make sure that not everybody hears this. This is just between you and me, right?
we can't guarantee that.
I usually do not tell people this. I would never openly, normally, and I haven't been drinking today, but I'm going to share with this anyway. Yeah, when I was here in Las Vegas, I ended up playing for Miley Cyrus for the Academy of Country Music Awards at the MGM.
Okay.
Now, that is what it is. Like I say, I'm very proud of Miley these days and the things she's doing. And I was very proud to do what I did because that was when her breakout hit at that time, when she was escaping all the Hannah Montana stuff, was The Climb, which, I thought was a great, uplifting, inspiring song, and I was proud to be a part of it. And it was a pretty amazing experience playing there at the MGM Grand in front of like 25,000 people. That was on CBS in front of 35 million people, the Academy of Country.
That's amazing. Amazing.
So, yeah, that will probably be the biggest show that I ever do in my life. Maybe not, but let's be realistic. Good chance, possibly, right?
You won't hear us making fun of you for that. I mean, shit. I'd love to play in front of 25 people.
Well, and you know what? I should finish this thought process about Miley because, I thought it was so cool what she did during the NCAA awards. And of course, we were all still in kind of COVID lockdown. A lot of people were going, what does Miley have to do with basketball? How's this all working? But, she's really bringing her audience back into that old school thing that we grew up with, that I grew up with, a great classic rock. And she belted out an amazing performance. And I was really, really proud of what she did. And I really want to thank her for enlightening her audience and being a rocker. That's
I totally agree with you, Greg. I mean, the stuff I've seen Miley doing, I mean, I started to do Heart of Glass, the Blondie, amazing. She's done some Joan Jett stuff. her new album is a real rock record. You know,
I love it. I love it.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
and
I'm
I like
glad that she's gone there. That's happening because
I agree. Just anything, and it exposes the kids to that music. So I'm with you. I'm 100%.
Let's be honest about it. You know, I love every kind of music, and well, not every aspect of every kind of music, but you know, the internet and what's happened with originally Napster, etc. Our entire world musically has changed so much, where in a lot of ways music is expected to be free, but even more importantly, the quality of the music. There's something about rock and roll that will always be magical and special. It never existed before. I was raised in the best time in the world with the best artists, the best music, and it's inspirational. It's gets you fired up. It's happy. It's fun. It's not negative. It's not angry. It's not bitter. It's not mean. It's not full of hates. And so that's the great thing about classic rock that I love.
100%. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you.
Yeah,
I mean, as a parent, it's a struggle for me.
Yeah,
you know, to try to expose my kids to the stuff I grew up with and have them appreciate it.
Yeah,
you know, it's something I deal with every day. So I mean, music is the soundtrack of my life. I mean, I hear a song. Every song I hear brings me to a certain moment in my life. Yeah. And it brings me back to that time like it was yesterday. And the biggest fear I have is I don't think today's kids will ever know that feeling because everything is so disposable.
I think they will, and it's certainly going to be with the music that they grew up with, because of course every generation needs to have something that is their identity. That is. You're
right.
And I get that. But you know, the funny thing about it is, in the end, as we all age, as they will age, a lot of us end up going back to older material, things that were even before our time. You know, I love the standards too. You know, the classics. Sure. You know, movie stuff that was in movies that we grew up on, things like that. I think they're going to find the same thing to be true.
Yeah. I agree with you. My oldest son, Gavin, I mean, he's 15. He's just now becoming like a big Def Leppard fan. Now, obviously, to us, but to him, I mean, that's like. That was like me getting into the Beatles when I was a kid. Yes. You know what I mean?
I love it. So, I love it. Well, I think that shows good parenting.
I appreciate that. I appreciate
everybody. Yeah, golf clap.
Round of applause.
Thank you, Greg.
You obviously did something right.
I appreciate that. So that being said, let's talk about some of these great artists. Yeah. I mean, your last record. I mean, a who's who of superstars on this record in Times of Olde. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Talk about the record.
The album you have coming out now.
Yes. You know, before we do that, I'm going to actually step back just a little bit to your previous question, because it kind of sets up the answer about my last release in Times of Olde, the second Renaissance Rock Orchestra record. Because when I first moved here to Las Vegas, all those guys and all the artists and all the classic rock artists were moving to Vegas. And I did a lot of very interesting things that introduced me to a lot of those cats. We were doing shows in that period of time called the Rock Gods Hall of Fame. That was put together by a great guitar player, a guy that went out with Peter Criss, I believe it was, Jason Ebbs, a singer, guitar player, and he has an original band called Ecotonic, and the drummer for that is Chris Slade, the infamous ACDC drummer. Chris Slade. Yeah. So I was asked to join that project and did some shows with them. The original thing, and we also used that band for a lot of the Rock Gods Hall of Fame shows. Now, the great thing about the Rock Gods Hall of Fame shows is we would give out multiple awards to all these unbelievable cats that were in Vegas, that Jason knew, that Chris knew, that everybody knows. And as a matter of fact, mine is right behind me back here. I got mine in 2016.
Awesome.
Rock Gods Hall of Fame award. And but yeah, it would include Bumblefoot from Guns N' Roses, Chris Slade, of course. We had Les Warner from the Cult on drums. It goes on and on and on. Tony Franklin from the Firm. We did dozens, well, not dozens of these shows. I think we did at least about a half dozen. But at every show, we would have a minimum of 3 or 4 guys. Vinny Appice from Black Sabbath, the drum, iconic, legendary drummer from Black Sabbath and Dio.
Love him.
And so I met all these guys. Doug Aldridge from Whitesnake. Yeah, so the list is long. And if you think about that list, suddenly it's like, oh, all those guys are on Gregg's last record.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. When I heard some of these artists, when I was looking up the album and doing research, I was blown away. I mean, Vinny Appice to me is he's one of my all-time favorite drummers because I love Dio and I love Black Sabbath. Yeah. I love all Black Sabbath, but I was always more of a Dio Black Sabbath guy. So he's one of my favorite drummers. And then you have Joel Hoekstra, who's like, oh my God, like
unbelievable.
I
mean, of course. Now, another thing that happened during all that period of time when I was meeting all these guys, and we didn't get to that second record right away, and for a number of reasons. One of them being that this kind of material that I create is very difficult to write and record. Many of the tracks off that record have 100 tracks of keyboards and guitars and vocals, and so that's kind of unusual for a lot of rock and roll these days. Yes. It's kind of complex, and I should tell the story about that too. Well, first of all, I was going to say that I met these guys, and of course I was out here in Las Vegas. I was back in the music industry, so one of the number one things you do when you're in the music industry is you go to the NAMM show.
Yeah, of course.
You guys are familiar with the NAMM show? Yeah, of course, the NAMM show out in Anaheim every year, usually sometime late January, early February. It seems to me is the biggest convention in the world, and it's every gear company in the world is there, whether it's guitars in music, everything from guitars to flutes to picks to flight cases, and it's enormous. And every rock star in the world is there.
Yep.
And not only are they there, but they're doing performances at night. Every night there's a concert here, a concert there, in the Sheraton, and on one side of the street, at the Hilton on the other side of the street. And you never know who's going to be there. You can see Yes performing. It could be Van Halen. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So I started going to NAMM every year, and of course that just extended the network of people that I was meeting, and kept telling people about Renaissance Rock Orchestra, and getting the ball rolling with that.
That's a great point, because NAMM, I mean, I actually might have an invite to that this year, which I would be blown away if I go there.
Oh, it's so fun. It is the funnest thing in the world. And it's just everything musical. I mean, what more could you want?
Of course.
Musicians playing, gear, all your friends. It's a gigantic party for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant music there. And I think it was in 2013 I was invited to be involved in David Harris's show, Living Legends concert series at NAMM. And I think at that show, I performed with John Payne from Asia. I performed with some of the guys from Blue Oyster Cult. I know that Nico from Iron Maiden, I played with Nico. Wow. Drummer from Paul Rogers. It goes on and on. I played Frankie Benali.
Rest in peace,
Frankie Benali of all things. And I ended up playing with Frankie Benali in several shows, not only at the NAMM show there, but also he played. When I first moved to Vegas, we had the Hollywood All-Stars, and we had the Moby Dicks. My Led Zeppelin All-Star show that I've been in for about a decade here in Las Vegas, the Moby Dicks, and it's all guys from Whitesnake, Foreigner, Ozzy. And I know we had Frankie play for one of those also. So it was a pleasure to be able to meet the guy who was just a sweetheart, and his passing has really hurt a lot of people and been a great loss for the rock and roll community. To so many of us here in Las Vegas, Frankie was good friend and brother.
Absolutely. People everywhere broken hearted over the loss of Frankie. Getting back to the record, Gregg, a personal favorite of mine is the epic last song, The Maker of Dreams.
Really? Is that right?
Tony Harnell, and I believe Joel Hoekstra's on that, right?
Joel Hoekstra is on that. That's really awesome.
Amazing track.
It's nice to hear that you dig that, because that song's a little bit outside for a lot of, regular rock and roll people, a lot of straight ahead rock and roll people, because it has a little bit of a prog flair to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
a little bit of a prog rock flair to it. And it's one of my favorites. And writing it was just a blast. And a lot of these songs seem to write themselves. I don't understand it. There's a thing going on. I think there's some kind of destiny. I know a lot of people think that about themselves and what's happening. But when music just flows out of you, the very first song I wrote for Renaissance Rock Orchestra was JS Rock.
I was just going to get into that. You got to tell us the story about that.
Orchestra piece. But all these songs, I don't even hardly work at it. It amazes me when I hear them and go, wow. That
came out of me?
Yeah, that's pretty phenomenal. I love that. Really? Where did that come from? How did I do that? And sometimes when I go back and try to relearn them to play them live, it's like, wow, how'd that go?
Yeah. You got to tell us more about
Talk about JS Rock. I want to hear the story
behind it. Johann Sebastian Bach, JS Rock. Tell us about
play on words.
It's kind of an interesting one, and brings me to another story that is all part of this whole Renaissance Rock Orchestra embryo, right? How it all came together, the big blast. Also, one of the things I was doing when I first moved to Las Vegas is I was going out and seeing a lot of Trans-Siberian Orchestra shows. And Mikey Bones, my buddy Mikey Bones, knew some of the guys in the band. At that point in time, a lot of the guys were from the East Coast. You know, they have the East Coast and the West Coast, or they did. We don't know where they're at and what they're doing now. But so I ended up meeting a lot of guys in Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Eventually, when Jeff Scott Soto joined Trans-Siberian, Jeff also. But so Mikey was introduced to me to these cats that were in Sabotage, the guys that started Trans-Siberian Orchestra. But I would see these shows, and I loved the music. I'm a classically trained pianist and a violinist. I was in orchestra all through school and even in college. And so I love strings and I love orchestras. It's kind of in my DNA from my upbringing. And, being a piano player, getting into Emerson, Lake and Palmer, all these progressive rock bands that I loved because it had that classical flair to it. And it had all the keyboards, the Rick Wakemans, all of that was all involved. And it is involved in TSO, which is, classical metal, right? So I was watching their shows, and we go out and see it every year. And I would think to myself, wow, I can do that. I think I could write that. And I said, Mikey, we should do something like that. Because, at that time particularly, TSO had created a brand new genre, in my opinion. Definitely. It was something that never existed before. And yes, it got somewhat diluted into a Christmas show. Yeah, right?
Yeah. True.
And even the Christmas show is great, and I love it. And it's still classical metal. But I was thinking to myself, yes.
100%, I agree.
I think I could do this. And I was seeing how that in 90 days, they're bringing in about 60 million in revenue, right? I think to myself, wow, there's only one of those. There's 100 million rock bands. There's 100 million guitar players, but there's really only one band, kind of like Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
This is true.
I think there's room for more. It's a big world out there, and all they do is tour the U.S.
This is very true.
How about Europe? How about South America? So, that was my first thought. So when I first started doing seriously writing for the Renaissance Rock Orchestra, the very first piece was JS Rock. And at the time, I would sit here, and you can't see the rest of my bachelor pad / recording studio. Which literally is what it is. But I have once again about 30 feet of plate glass window looking out over the strip, and it's beautiful looking at the strip and seeing all the lights. Yeah. And I would just sit there because I got to that point after I was dumped by the rich girlfriend, and I was on my own, that I was going, it's time to make this real, right? Yep. The party's over. Am I just going to play rock star, or am I going to actually start being a musician? Make it real. And of course, I was doing a lot of gigs with the Moby Dicks and other things, but I had this creative passion, this creative drive, and I sat down, and one of my favorite pieces growing up is a piano piece that almost all pianists learn called Solfeggietto, a Bach piece. Yeah. Now, it's actually written by Johann's son, Carl Philipp Emanuel, CPE Bach, is the guy that actually wrote it. But of course, nobody knows him, but they all know J.S. Bach, right? everybody knows Johann Sebastian Bach pretty much. So that was kind of a marketing thing to use the classical piece, and it was Bach's son. That's why I called it that. So yes, it's a play on words. I took this 1.5-minute piece that most pianists consider just to be not even really a serious piece. They consider it to be just a warm-up piece for serious virtuosos, right? But I've been playing it my whole life, and I always really enjoyed playing the piece and loved the music. And when I started expanding on the themes and the melodies and the ideas, it literally wrote itself. It was the craziest thing. And, I was thinking that I was trying to create a Trans-Siberian Orchestra template. And boy, was that the most powerful thing I could have done for the very first song, if that was to be the successful template for Renaissance Rock Orchestra. And at this point, I'm not sure that that's true. That I thought investors would be just coming out of the woodwork, trying another Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Look at the kind of money they make. Let's do this. Yes, let's millions and millions of dollars. And I have had great success with investors because people love the music, and I've been very, very blessed that way. It does have a uniqueness and a rarity. And of course, when you take the TSO thing and you get rid of the Christmas and you add rock stars, it becomes a whole new animal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an amazing story. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the new record, the latest record?
The new record, during COVID, obviously, it was shocking what happened to all of us, that COVID could happen in our lifetimes and change our lives as we know it, cause so much damage and grief, loss of life, so many things. But it was hard to imagine after a very successful career in Las Vegas for a decade that suddenly I would be looking at, well, I'm completely out of work. I have no gigs. What am I going to do? I came very, very close to having to leave Las Vegas. And I really didn't think that was the right thing to do, because I really felt like there's a reason that I'm here, and all the things that have happened while I've been here. I mean, it's too much. There's a reason that all of that is happening, and why I came here and why I'm here. And the fact that I was able to survive COVID and still be here, and the things that are continuing to happen for Renaissance Rock Orchestra. Las Vegas is the entertainment capital of the world, and there's a lot of opportunity for me as a musician. But in COVID, it was all gone. So what are you going to do? Obviously, as an artist, as a musician, I write every day. I'll have a nervous breakdown if too many days go by without my keyboard.
Sure.
I love to practice. I love to play. And every time I sit down and play, a new song comes. And I love that. And I feel very blessed that is happening for me. And it kind of shows me proof that the universe, or whatever you want to call it out there, is saying, this is what you were meant to do. This is who you are. We've given you this gift. And we're giving you this music. Do the right thing with it. Give people the right message. And that's what I try to do with the music. So during COVID, of course, I started writing. And not the entire album is necessarily a message about COVID, but in many ways it is. So I was trying to give people hope. And I was trying to reach audiences. And the title track, particularly, A Song of Hope, is one of my proudest moments, and it's an extensive piece that really is quite inspirational, and I get a lot of comments from people around the world that have lost family members, that have lost their jobs, their homes, and they say that song.
Oh, did we lose Greg? Oh, it looks like we lost Greg. Well, I'll tell you, Jay, I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed having Greg on the show. Super insightful guy, amazing musician. Let's see if we can get Greg back. I'm not sure what the issue is. They will need to connect. Well, we've lost Greg at this point, but
we can
Jay,
talk.
I will say this. I mean, he's been an amazing guest. I mean, the stories he tells, I mean, phenomenal stories. He's an amazing musician. If you haven't checked it out, you need to check out his albums. The new album is a song of hope. He was just telling us about it. check it out. I mean, if you like, he was talking about Trans-Siberian Orchestra. If you like Trans-Siberian Orchestra, you're going to love the stuff Gregg Fox does with Renaissance Rock Orchestra. It's symphonic metal. It's very layered. It's metal with a classical touch. I mean, it's so diverse. It'll take you on a musical journey. You know, it's a shame, Jay. I know you had some great questions for Gregg.
Well, no, I mean, maybe he's going to come back in.
Get him back. But yeah, while we're waiting for Gregg, dude, while we're waiting for Gregg, let's see what's going on. We'll give him a minute.
Why don't you call him?
I will. But while we're waiting, I was going to say, what about this Jacob deGrom situation?
I mean, you saw my tweet, right? I mean, I'm sitting there watching the Sixers game, and, you know, Sixers game 5, second round of the playoffs, and I'm sitting there tweeting about, you know, a New York Met. I mean, what does that tell you? I mean, obviously the guy, what he's doing this year is beyond. I mean, he's Superman.
Oh, it just transcends. But I was more getting about the fact that he's got the shoulder soreness now. I mean, the Mets at this point would be out of their minds to not at least skip a start.
Well, have you heard anything yet? I mean, the
MRI came back clean. They say there's nothing wrong. But, I mean, this is like 4 starts in a row. He had the lat, you know, then he had the lower back, then he had the elbow, then the shoulder. I mean, it's getting to the point where, hey, maybe his body's trying to tell him something, you know? I thought maybe we'd get Gregg back. Let me see if I can get him on the phone.
Yeah, call him. See what happened.
See if we can get him back.
Says device not connected.
Hey, Gregg, we're still live. We were seeing if we were going to get you back. No problem. No problem. We have Gregg on the phone. We're trying to get him back. Yeah, just come back in. We should get you. So we're here waiting for you, Gregg. Yep. No problem. All right, we should have Gregg back in a minute, guys. Yeah, but like I said, Gregg's a great guy. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. Like, I mean, I enjoy his story, so I really haven't really been talking much. But like, I mean, there's just a lot on that record. You know, the first one, In Times of Olde, that, I mean, we didn't even touch upon. I mean, you talked about the last track, The Maker of Dreams. How about the first track?
Yeah, unbelievable. There he is.
Hey, Gregg.
There he is. He's back.
My apologies.
Hey, Gregg.
Yes.
So real quick, we obviously, you know, we lost you for a second, but we're kind of talking. But I was saying to Aaron, I said we talked a little bit about, and I'm not trying to bounce back to the prior record, but we talked about the last track.
Right.
How about the first
really
track?
Talk about it. And
Well. I mean, I said, you know, Aaron said something about the last track. I said, well, what about the first track? Because to me, the Ice Age Cometh. Right. I mean, first of all, the name of the track. First of all, right off the bat, the Ice Age Cometh. Right.
Right.
You got Vinny Appice on drums. Like, as soon as you hear there's drum beat, you know who it is.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's absolutely off the charts. Like,
so cool.
This, I got to be honest with you, man. Aaron will tell you straight up. When it comes to music, Aaron and I we're metalheads, but we both have kind of different styles that we prefer. Right. Aaron's always been like the AC/DC type, Van Halen-ish, that style. Yes. I'm more. When you look at me, I'm more of like, obviously I'm wearing a Striper shirt, so this isn't really showing it, but I love
the new Striper is definitely more progressive metal than the old Striper.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
You're right. I agree.
But
true.
I'm generally a balls of the wall, heavy type, you know, obviously Megadeth's my favorite band. Nice. But when I put on this record, I realized something like that I've been missing, because I've always I've always loved Trans-Siberian Orchestra. I mean, I'm a huge Al Pitrelli fan. Yes. I loved him with Sabotage.
Yes.
And I love, obviously, you know, they did a lot of good stuff before they were Trans-Siberian
Orchestra.
I can't even say it right. TSO.
Sometimes I get that way with Renaissance Rock Orchestra too.
Yeah, I was just
Say that 5 times fast.
Al Petrelli, yeah, Al.
But I mean, I'm telling you, this album, it's like what I love the most about this project is just the fact that you mix all these different styles. I mean, I hear everything in this.
Yes.
Awesome. It's not like, okay, let's listen to a thrash album. You throw on Megadeth, you're getting thrash or,
yeah, right.
You throw on ACDC, you're getting like that classic, rock.
Yeah, 4/4 rock and roll.
Straight ahead,
Correct.
4/4 rock and roll, baby. Yeah.
But with this record, you're getting all the bells and whistles. Like it's everything. You got your classical, you got your metal. I've seen some elements of thrash. You have everything.
I'm going to hire you to be my marketing man.
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah,
I would like to go into marketing
for RRO. Absolutely. That's so cool that you get it like that. That you see that, and I love it that's the experience that you've gotten from that record, because that's the experience I was trying to provide. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm blown away.
Nailed it. Well, Jason, I know you had some questions for Gregg, so why don't you fire away?
Yeah, I did have a couple questions, and kind of going back a little bit, you kind of did discuss, but not a lot, about your childhood.
Yeah.
I'm curious at what age you first developed an interest in playing music, and then what it was that triggered that interest.
Sure. Well, it's a very, very easy one. A lot of people would probably be able to answer that pretty easily, but I'm just so blessed to be able to give you the answer that I can give you. I come from an incredibly musical family. I'm a church kid. I'm that church kid, and I was supposed to be a preacher. If mom and dad would have got their way, I'm sure that I would have been a minister for sure.
Wow.
And so I have a little bit of that minister thing in me, from a lifetime of witnessing so many sermons and all. But yeah, so I was going to church every Sunday, Sunday morning, Sunday night. But we were a very musical family. My mom was the organist. My dad was the choir director. We sang in quartets. My family did. There was always a piano in the house. We were gathered around the piano quite often, almost on a nightly basis. And so I was fascinated, by having a piano there as a toddler, even, and playing with the piano and loving, the sounds that it made, and of course watching mom play and seeing what could be created with it. And then when I was 5 years old, my sister and I sang a duet in front of the church. She was 3, I was 5. So all through my upbringing, I was playing piano, et cetera, et cetera. Then of course in school I started playing violin. So I then at that point would bring the violin into the church and do duets and quartets on violin. And so it was always singing. Music was everywhere in our home. My dad was a huge Dean Martin fan. Eddie Fisher, Dean Martin, that kind of stuff. And I loved that music too. So yeah, it's in my DNA. There's a thing about it. My sister still sings in church all the time. My mom and dad did until recently. They've kind of gotten to the age where they're not so able to do that anymore. But yes, so always, the entire life, our entire family's been performing and playing music. And so I knew I always loved music. And when my mom and dad started giving me lessons at 5 on piano.
Wow.
And, there's times as a kid when the last thing you want to do is practice piano, right? So it wasn't always easy. It wasn't always joy. And as you're learning something, it's not fun. It's a challenge. But I got to that point where the dexterity and the knowledge of the piano started to immerse itself into me. And I started writing songs in junior high school. I was writing music is when I first really started writing my first songs. And of course, rock and roll I'd been hearing it. And I wasn't allowed to have a lot of it in the house and listen to it. So it was kind of like on the radio and over at a friend's house and this. And I was into the whole scene. Of course, by the time junior high came, I was full on into everything rock and roll, and being in
Thanks,
the
Christina.
Northwest. Hendrix was a big thing for us. And so loved everything that had to do with it. And I can remember when Heart first started playing. I'll tell you an interesting story about that. In high school, I was at a concert with Heart and Foreigner. We're talking cold as ice days, right? We're talking Barracuda days. And
We're going back now.
High school, and we were partying and having a great time. And I looked at my buddies and I said, "I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do with my life." And of course, they looked at me, this geeky violin player in orchestra, and went, "Yeah, sure you are." Yeah, sure you are. I think it was 9 years later. I think it took 9 years that I was starting to do shows with Roger Fisher. Roger Fisher and Mike DeRocher from Heart, who wrote Barracuda, and of course, just recently, I did the Coop Fest show, the Alice Cooper show in Phoenix, down there in April, and I got to perform with Lou Gramm from Foreigner, and what a bucket list moment that was.
That's amazing.
So, all of this, that very first moment, seeing Foreigner and Heart, then working with the guys in Heart and Howard, and of course Howard's on my record. The In Times of Olde record, he plays on a very Trans-Siberian track called Alexander's Symphony. Plays a guitar solo on it, and of course he's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame member now. And then to do the show with Lou Gramm, wow! I'll tell you, being on stage with Lou Gramm, playing "I Want to Know What Love Is," wow!
One of my favorite songs of all time.
Bucket list moment. It was so magical,
Awesome.
And the event was so great. I had never met Alice before. So hanging out with Alice and his wife and chatting with them for about 20 minutes was great. He's just a funny guy, a real sweetheart. And of course, we have a little bit of a connection, and we had some things to talk about in that his bass player, Greg Smith, plays bass on my new album, A Song of Hope, which we didn't finish talking about.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, so Greg Smith, Alice Cooper's bass player, was on that record. It was funny. I was sitting talking with Alice and Cheryl, and I was telling them about A Song of Hope. And because, they kind of have a little bit of a ministry, through music. They do amazing things for the community down there. And, really, really are great influences. And so as we talked about that, and I had to bring up A Song of Hope. I said, Cheryl, I really hope you listen to this song, because it's one of my songs I'm most proud of. Because as a composer, to actually emotionally touch people, that's the hard part. You can move people, you can give them energy, give them excitement. You can lead them on different adventures, which I try to do musically. And I think, Jason, you know that from the Maker of Dreams and the Ice Age Cometh.
Yeah.
But when you can actually touch them spiritually, in their soul, in their heart, whatever you want to call it, move them emotionally. That's what you want to do if you can. And I'm not sure, I think that was maybe the first moment that I really had written a song that did that. So I was telling Cheryl all about it. And it was funny because the food arrived. And so I said, well, I'm going to let you guys eat. I didn't want to, kind of intrude while they were eating. So I walked away, and I was like texting one of my friends. And I was like going, oh my God, I was just talking to Alice Cooper. I'm not worthy, right? and it cracked me up so much, because I was only about 10 feet away from Alice, and I had to go back and tell him the story. I said, Alice, I was just texting my friend, I'm not worthy. And then I realized, wait a minute, your bass player's on my record. Maybe I am worthy. He said, yeah, you're worthy. You're definitely worthy. Yeah. But then we started talking about Greg and the stories of touring with Alice back in the day. And so the things you do on the bus to try to keep yourself occupied. Playing poker is what they did all the time. And Alice actually gave Greg Smith, my bass player, this, I think it's like a Miller can trophy from playing poker. And they never played for much, but I guess they had a lot of fun doing it. And so we shared a few stories about that, which was really awesome. The crowd at this show down there in Phoenix was so amazing. It was like the first show I had done since COVID was starting to open up. But the crowd was so receptive, and it was really amazing to play keyboards with Asia featuring John Payne.
Awesome.
And even learning those songs and programming these songs on the synthesizer, I really, really enjoyed. Of course, I've always loved Asia. It's part of our history. It's in our DNA. But when I really started learning the songs and playing them, I really realized how great they make you feel when you hear them, right? Yeah. So doing that was an amazing experience. To meet Lou and to be able to play for him. We played Feels Like the First Time. We played Jukebox Hero. We did I Want to Know What Love Is. There was a couple other songs. But yeah, what an amazing event. And,
That's amazing.
yeah.
A couple of minutes ago, the audience saw a comment pop up from Christina Avila. Christina actually reached out to us, got you on the show.
She did. Yeah.
There she is.
She is my official East Coast promoter, and she is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So good to work with, so professional. And she never quits. She's like the Energizer Bunny. It's always something with her. She never stops. I think I gave her a list the other night of about 70 record labels. We're embarking on, trying to get real record distribution. And a lot of people nowadays don't think that you need that. Why do you need it? There's so many different ways you can promote yourself and release your music to your audience and to your crowd. But I think for where we're at with Renaissance Rock Orchestra, we need worldwide distribution, because we need to build the brand. So
Sure.
I am shooting for that. So I sent her a list of, I think, 70 record labels around the world. And of course, there's so many of them. So hopefully we'll get signed in South America with one company, and in Europe with a different company, and Japan with another, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I was thinking to myself, because she's always saying, I need more to do. What can I do next? Christina, unbelievable. Christina Avila. I have to say the name right. When I'm talking to her on the phone, I always go, Avila. That's it. Avila.
You're saying it right.
I get it sometimes.
Well,
But
that leads me to another question. Where do you see the future of Renaissance Rock Orchestra? Tell us what's in the plans, like what's going on moving forward.
There will always be more music, and please follow us on Spotify. Please like. It's really important to try to build that traction and get the brand going. So on the new record, instead of releasing it as a record, I'm releasing it as singles. So and I'm really I'm giving everybody a lot of time. I'm doing that about every 2 months. I'm hoping that by the time the 5 songs, it's an EP with 5 songs on it, A Song of Hope. I'm hoping that by the time we get down the road here, that I will have some fresh material. My original plan with The Song of Hope was that we would have kind of volume 1 and volume 2, because I certainly have the other 5 songs, but it was just so difficult during the COVID to try to complete the record. And once again, I jumped through amazing hoops to try to create an audio experience sonically and musically that is a little bit rare. I mean, that was produced by Brian Malouf, the guy that's produced Queen at Wembley and I think Fleetwood Mac, but he's just an amazing producer. But he was not my first choice. So, and I had the same problem when it came to mastering. I start with one place, and it's the product. I always try to make sure it's the best I could possibly make it be. So that's always an experience. So we'll complete sending out all the songs on Spotify about one every 2 months. So there will always be new music, and there'll be a volume 2 of A Song of Hope. But of course, we need to get this out and get it playing in front of audiences, right? I mean,
absolutely.
When you hear the songs, how everybody tells me, I hear that, and I have to see it live. I can imagine how
100%.
You hit it on the head.
Yeah, these songs are meant to be seen and performed live.
Yes, it's about the energy.
They're epic.
About that connection with the audience. So of course that's where I'm going. Now, I have for several years, I've had kind of a dual focus with Renaissance Rock Orchestra for a live show. And there's some challenges with this, of course, because I have so many different artists. I always want to have as many of the rock stars as I can, but that's a budget issue. Obviously, for an unbranded band that doesn't have millions and millions of followers, touring costs are very expensive. So it's difficult to make that work, because we this is probably not going to convert into ticket sales at this point. But so my first thought was, we've got to get to Europe. I've always wanted to do European festivals, and it's still a major goal of mine, because this music those audiences over there love this material. In the United States, we have challenges with rock and roll because the way our kids have been brought up with rap and a lot of other things, right? Back to that rock is dead syndrome. Well, we know it's not dead. And we know that right now tribute bands of all things are one of the biggest things happening in the world, and in the U.S. particularly.
Very true.
Worldwide, most people don't realize that worldwide rock is still the biggest form of music that sells anywhere worldwide.
Oh, you hit it on the head. We have a ton of tribute bands, and really good ones in this area, in the local area. We have a band called the Land of Oz.
Yes.
the guitarist for the band is named Matt Stanley.
Yeah.
He plays Randy Rhoads note for note. Now, I'm sure you love Randy Rhoads. You're wearing his shirt.
You saw the
And-
shirt, I take it.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, you've got to hear this kid, Matt
You got
Stanley.
to hear
Greg.
Matt Stanley. He sound and
I'm putting it out there.
Oh,
I
tell me
want to
that-
see Matt Stanley on a Renaissance Rock Orchestra track. Renaissance Rock Orchestra track. I'm putting it out there now.
I'm open. Absolutely.
You got to check Matt out, and Matt, you got to check Greg out.
I'll get him in touch
Perfect
with
match.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the introduction.
We're
guys.
going to set that up.
I will set that up.
Please
Yep.
do. Please do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love to do festivals. I know that we will end up doing festivals. One of the first things I had to do was kind of get the band together, and COVID kind of screwed that up. Right before COVID was going to happen, and the other part of this dual live Renaissance Rock Orchestra focus that I've had for so many years is what better way to build a brand, since it's difficult to get traction not only from audiences, whether you're on Spotify or whether you're on YouTube, and we are on all of that. Please, everybody, go check out our YouTube channel. We have new videos every Tuesday, every Friday. But what better way to gain an audience than to have a show in Las Vegas, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's always been my plan, to have a residency here. But that's another difficult challenge in that it's an unknown brand. It's an unknown act, So to build that is a lot of money. We were right on the edge of a multi-million-dollar investor back there in March, and then COVID hit. And I was like going, you've got to be kidding. I've been working at this for 4 years trying to put this residency together. So we have regrouped, and that money went a different direction. But I've always had real good luck with that because the music is so good and so unique. And with all the artists that I have in the project, there's a lot of marketability. So I'm happy to announce, and I can't give a full announcement about where, when, who is. Well, I can tell you who the band's going to be because I have that all together. But yes, I'm very excited to say that we're going to be starting to do shows here in Las Vegas. It looks like right now. I'm going to say it looks like, but I'm literally within hours of a confirmation of a venue here in Vegas on Fremont Street. I will say that much.
Awesome.
And that's going to be very, very fun too, to have those crowds on Fremont. And July 30th, it looks very, very much at this point. I think I can say 95% that we will be doing a show July 30th on Fremont Street here in Las Vegas. I hope you all are listening. I know somebody needs to come to Las Vegas.
Yes, Jason.
Yours truly.
Congratulations, Greg. We're pumped to hear that, man.
Yes. Yeah,
You gotta get out there and check it out.
The band will be the band that was on A Song of Hope almost entirely.
Awesome.
I have issues with the size of the room, and of course, we're trying to make the best show we can possibly make it. As a matter of fact, the tagline, of course, every Vegas show has to have a tagline, so that tourists, people that are just in town that don't know anything about the band or about the music, they see the ads and they go, "Wow, I want to do that." But our tagline is the world's greatest rock show, and we are doing everything we can to make it the world's greatest rock show in a lot of very unique ways. But it will be Brian Tichy on drums, who plays on every track on A Song of Hope. He's the drummer from Whitesnake and Foreigner, and
Pride and Glory.
He also plays with me in the Moby Dicks, our Led Zeppelin All-Star show, that will be playing at Vamped July 23rd and 24th, the weekend before the Renaissance Rock Orchestra show. Also playing in that show with Moby Dicks is Phil Suzanne, the bass player from Ozzy.
Yep.
And so we will be doing the show the week before and then coming out and doing this one July 30th. But on the album, on guitar, I have 3 guitar players. And one of them is Michael James Romeo from Symphony X. And Michael is unbelievable and phenomenal. And Michael does 3 tracks. But starting out with this show, I don't think I quite have the budget to fly everybody out and pay the kind of money that a lot of these rock stars need to have to do what they do. So I'm trying to use as much Vegas talent as I can, guys here in town, just to make it more affordable and to build this thing up, right, as we continue doing shows and people find out about it. So on guitar, it's going to be Christian Brady, who plays 2 songs off the record, off A Song of Hope, and Tony Alleman from Rat. Christian, by the way, is from Hell Yeah, and great player, and Tony Alleman. Now, Christian kind of handles a little bit more of the feel when it comes to like David Gilmour-ish, Pink Floyd-ish stuff, and some real powerful things. And Tony handles a lot more of the neoclassical shredding metal stuff that a lot of the material needs definitely the Trans-Siberian Orchestra style songs.
Cool.
So those guys are going to be all doing the show along with Phil Suzanne and of course Mark Robert Bowles, who sings every track on A Song of Hope. Mark has one of the most amazing voices in rock and roll, and you guys probably know this, but he was the voice for the entire trilogy album by Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yes.
And arguably one of the finest Malmsteen records ever. And his voice is crazy. He also went out with Dokken, Ted Nugent. So we have a band. We have a real band that's going to do a real show, and you guys need to get your real asses to Las Vegas.
Absolutely. Super exciting. We are super excited.
July 30th. Everybody
great.
Make your plans. Make your plans. Do it now. It's coming up fast, but there's plenty of time to get here. I think it's going to be kind of a big deal. You know, my management company in LA is promoting the thing pretty heavily, and we have some brilliant ideas to really make it a fun and exciting show and an exciting night. So I think there's going to be a lot of who's who people there, a lot of artists and bands that know about Renaissance Rock Orchestra and are not on tracks yet. I think they're going to show up. We know there's a lot of that, and of course, a lot of the fans of those artists and of Renaissance Rock Orchestra too. So, yeah, pretty stoked about that. I can hardly believe it. There's a lot of work to be done, gentlemen.
Awesome.
Well, I got two real quick things I wanted to get in before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
So, real quick, first one, I think you need to commandeer Michael Sweet for one of your next albums to sing at least one track. Yeah, because that guy's got an operatic voice. He's like a bowling.
Unbelievable. And, that wouldn't be that difficult to do. I'm sure you guys probably know that Oz lives here, and I'm very good friends with Oz Fox.
Yes.
Yes.
And, of course, we know that he's been through some severe challenges physically here lately, medical issues, but he's come through very, very well, and we're very thankful for that.
Yes, we are.
Part of our community. So, so that would be very doable, Jason.
Well, that's one thing I want to see.
That's a pretty cool
And then
idea.
the second thing I wanted to ask, so we both know that Metallica and Accept have both done symphonic albums.
Yes.
If you had to pick one metal band today,
besides Renaissance Rock Orchestra,
besides your own, to do it, who would you pick?
Wow, that's a tough one. If I was going to pick any band that exists today to do a symphonic rock show,
yes, or at least a symphonic rock album,
yeah.
It's like metal, like a metal band, though. Like kind of like.
So I obviously can't say I can't say Zeppelin, which would be my first choice. I can't. There's a lot of them that I can't.
That's a great choice, and Zeppelin bordered it. I remember in when they had the Page and Plant tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
They had some symphonic elements. Jay and I had the pleasure of seeing that tour.
They always have, and of course we're going to be doing a lot of that in the show too. Hopefully with a not a full orchestra this time, but with some string players to really bring that symphonic aspect into it. For sure, Casimir, and that's going to be a part of our set list.
Absolutely. Casimir
has got to have Casimir in it, right?
Casimir is perfect for you guys. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Zeppelin was a good pick. I got to say, that's a great pick. Yeah.
Right. If I had a choice to ever see any band do a symphonic rock show, that would be it. I'm very particular about who I listen to and what I listen to, because for a lot of different reasons. Lyrically, it has to be something that really moves me and inspires me, or is really fascinating or interesting. So a lot of the really hard rock stuff that I hear now, I really don't care for a lot. I'm not so into it. I think symphonically that it would be very, very cool. A lot of it, if it had symphony, I would like it a lot better. But I have to just, as long as we're saying this, I have to bring up a record that I'm really into, and a band that I'm really into right now that I'd love to hear do that, and that's a band called Transatlantic. Do you guys know about Transatlantic at all?
I'm not too familiar with Transatlantic, to be quite frank with you.
After Mike Portnoy, the amazing Mike Portnoy, who I don't have on a Renaissance Rock Orchestra track yet, who has been invited, I think Mike is one of the best drummers.
Amazing drummer. I agree.
Dream
Theater.
I love Dream Theater.
Yeah.
So Dream Theater would be probably one of my answers about it.
I was thinking you were
going to say Dream Theater would be perfect to do.
I was thinking you were going to say that.
Well, and as long as we're there, I got to talk about Jordan Rudess. I mean, he is the most inspirational keyboard player in the world. He's got to be the best keyboard player in the world when it comes to rock and roll and rock. And of course, I think he was in Juilliard at 9 years old. Unfortunately, I didn't get that kind of training, but he's so skilled and he's just a wizard. He's a genius, and so he's kind of my hero. So yeah, to see him play would be a remarkable thing. But when Mike Portnoy left Dream Theater, he started doing a lot of different projects. He didn't want to be tied down to one thing, and I'm sure there's a lot of other reasons too. But so he started doing things with the Flower Kings. He started doing a thing with a band called Transatlantic, which is Neil Morse on guitar, and they have a new record out about, I think could be 6 months now, but I have really gotten hooked on this record. It's called The Absolute Universe. And once again, I want my music to be inspiring in some way. I love to thrash out and rock out. Absolutely. Yes, I do. But when I'm listening, which is not often, right? I don't have time to listen to a lot of other people's music.
Because you're making it.
My biggest focus is to make sure that I'm writing more for myself. I have to do that as a person, but also that I'm doing it for the project, for the future, and for the world. I really hope that my music continues to bring light and hope to people, that it has that rock thing, that energy, but also that it gives them something positive in life. So those are my hopes. But I'd love to have Transatlantic do a symphonic show. That would be very cool. Hey, another thing I think about when I think about that is the Sons of Apollo. Bumblefoot, Ron Thal from Guns N' Roses, was on my last record. He plays a solo on a song called My Lonely Heart. Unbelievable. If you haven't heard that yet, make sure you listen to that guitar solo by Bumblefoot.
Tremendous solo.
On In Times of Olde, our second record. But Ron's in a band now called Sons of Apollo.
Heard of them.
With Billy Sheehan, Mike Portnoy, Jeff Scott Soto, and and that's Derek Sherinian on keyboards in that one, another great keyboardist. But so Sons of Apollo is very cool too. They do some great material, and I know that they pre-COVID they did some stuff in Europe. I think it was with an orchestra that's on YouTube. I think it's called The Gates of Babylon. Very cool, something to check out. So that's another. I like Sons of Apollo, and I love any great kind of progressive rock. It's got to have great power, but it's also got to have great complexity and some timing changes, some interest, something that draws me, and that's what I need to have. And I think Sons of Apollo with the symphony would be, well, they've done it. So yeah, it is awesome.
Awesome. Anyway, Greg, I know Jay and I we both share the same sentiment. We've thoroughly enjoyed having you on the show. You're an amazing musician, a great storyteller, a great guest, a great personality, and we've really enjoyed having you, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys very much for having me on the show. I really enjoyed meeting you both and talking to you. Out of the entire show, I have to say that the most surprising thing to me is the depth of knowledge that Jason has about our last record in Times of Olde, and that his favorite track is The Maker of Dreams. I love that. That's
my favorite track too.
Well, that was Aaron's.
Yeah, that's my favorite
that was
track.
Aaron?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Jason. I'm sorry.
No, Jason loves the Ice Age Cometh.
The Ice Age Cometh. I actually wrote the Ice Age.
But that's fine. That's fine. We both love it. That's great.
Those are both great tracks to love. A funny quick story about the Ice Age Cometh. I actually wrote that song back in 1985, I think it was.
Holy crap.
Kind of interesting thing that it still has a lot of current value. And I wrote it as an environmental song with a kind of an odd twist. And many of my bands that I played with, even cover bands and club bands up in Seattle, have played the Ice Age Cometh. Not quite like that version on that record, though.
Cool.
Well, before we wrap it up, why don't you just tell everybody here where they can find you on all the socials?
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. And once again, I want to thank Christina Avila, Artist Promotion, for all the hard work that she does. She's an amazing person too, but brilliant PR person.
She's right there.
We're everywhere. You can go to Facebook, Renaissance Rock Orchestra. Please follow us, and you'll see a lot of posts there. You can follow me on my personal site, Gregg Fox Music. it's a lot easier to post things on a daily basis there. But on Instagram, we're Renaissance Rock Orchestra. On YouTube, we are Renaissance Rock Orchestra. Spotify, we are Renaissance Rock Orchestra. The great thing is you only have to type it in once in each one of those places.
Awesome. So everybody
Once you get
make
that
sure.
Renaissance in there, you're pretty good to go.
Yep,
But
that's
yeah,
it.
please do follow us on Spotify. I'm going to be releasing the new songs on Spotify about one every 2 months here, and that will continue into some new material that's not on any records. Please try to pick up A Song of Hope 2020, and you can DM me if you'd like to on Facebook, on Instagram. A lot of people do this, and I send out records to these people, and they really enjoy the music. So you can do that within Times of Olde, although I think I only have about 30 copies of that left at this point. I will have more pressed, of course. But yeah, please follow, thank you for all your time, and thank you for listening to the music. Guys, it was a real pleasure meeting you and speaking with both of you about the music and music in general. I had a lot of fun.
The feeling is mutual, guys.
We loved it.
Everybody, again, check out Renaissance Rock Orchestra, Gregg Fox, and also don't forget to follow Sports and Metal at Sports and Metal on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. We appreciate it, and Greg,
and our
thank you
website.
so much
Come
again.
to Las Vegas. Come
We
see
will.
us
We
July
will.
30th. That's a really good excuse for you.
Yep, we will. And don't forget also www.sportsandmetal.com and check out Greg in Las Vegas.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Rock and
Thank
roll.
you, Greg.
Rock
Thank you.
on.
Rock on. Take
All
it
right,
easy.
that's
out.
all of you. Talk to you
Take
soon.
care.
Peace out.
And that's our show. Tune in next time for more Sports and Metal with Jason Voorhees and Aaron Savage. Woo, yeah! Got something to say? Hit us up at sportsandmetal0423 at yahoo.com or on Twitter at sportsandmetal.